You know, I find you more likable today than usual.
When Alex Hirsch set out to make Gravity Falls for the Disney Channel, he wasn't just making a show for the kiddos, he managed to make something that could bridge generational gaps, provide a ton of hidden references, and push the limit when it came to adult jokes. As fans of the show grow older and adults look back, check out some of the things only the older viewing audience would notice, or some pretty mature and well-cultured children. Let's all head back to the Mystery Shack for another joyous ride through the world of Gravity Falls. Into the Bunker was a pivotal episode for Gravity Falls in terms of plot and huge reveals, but there was some pretty risque stuff found in the episode as well. One moment comes when Soos, Wendy, Dipper, and Mabel all enter a pretty creepy room. After commenting on the room, Mabel has a little zinger of her own when she brings up the room being not as creepy as Dipper's internet history. A young boy who's almost 13 probably got bored of his adventures in Gravity Falls, and we can just imagine the curious and adult-themed search items loaded up on his computer. The joke ended there because we imagined a cutaway gag to the search history would have been a big no-no for Disney censors. Well, before internet searches provided instant access to adult content, teens and adults had to find things the old-fashioned way, through print. In the episode Scary-oke, Dipper discovers a glimpse of what that's like when searching for more information on his Grunkle Stan. After opening a chest, Dipper discovers a whole slew of magazines with women on the cover. It's pretty obvious what those magazines were meant to represent, including the cover for Fully Clothed Women. Plus, Stan had no reason to shop from the lady swimwear magazine, indicating he was doing a little more than just catalog shopping through the full-color pictures. Dipper's disgust adds to the scene, and it was probably a side to Stan that he did not want to know about. One of the more cliche parts of television shows and movies is seeing characters drown their sorrows with drink after drink. The consumption of alcohol rarely helps in these situations, but it just helps visually showcase how characters have hit rock bottom. Many adults probably noticed the same theme in the episode The Gulf War. Mabel is all excited to have her picture featured in the local paper after writing an article on squirrel fashion, but her feature was tossed to the side for Pacifica Northwest story on V-neck fashion trends. As she wallows in her own sorrow, Mabel pulls out a small glass and slams back a shot of orange juice. Even the reaction on her face made it seem like she was trying hard to swallow some hard liquor. Concepts of heaven and hell are not usually thrust into the limelight on a children's show, but Gravity Falls presented some of the themes right in our faces for the episode Soos and the Real Girl. While Soos talks with his abuelita, she expresses her one desire, for Soos to have a real girlfriend before she passes away and goes to heaven. When Soos proclaims that she will be there with Grandpa, abuelita reveals the shocking truth: his grandpa is not in heaven. With a quick glance to the ground, she was obviously referring to a life filled with fire, brimstone, and horned demons. This leaves one question: what exactly did Soos's grandfather do to get denied a place in heaven? What kind of secrets is abuelita hiding from the rest of her family? But seriously, the joke came out of nowhere and provided one of the biggest laughs in the episode. Grunkle Stan has an old school mentality where a lot of things he says may not be politically correct or should even be spoken around kids. One classic example comes from the episode The Little Gift Shop of Horrors. The non-canon story is split into 3 different parts, including one involving a witch who loves to take the hands of others, especially when they steal. When Stan is desperate to get his hands back after snatching up a gold watch, he apologizes to the witch and asks for his literal digits. He then declares that he has a certain gesture to show the witch, and we can all pretty much conclude that he's talking about a single finger, the middle finger, the bird. And that's not the only adult joke Stan has in the episode, but we'll get to the other one a little later. Stan says what he thinks and often blurts out things in the spur of the moment. Just take his sudden reaction to a failed hot air balloon in the episode The Love God. After Soos tries putting together a hot air balloon for the Woodstick Festival, things don't go quite as planned. Letters begin to fall off and Stan proclaims, "What the H?" before getting crushed by the actual letter H. We all knew what he meant to say. Yeah, the same place Soos's grandfather currently resides. The gag was a great way for Stan to get away with some foul language and a clever way for the show's creators to get past Disney censors. The H definitely hinted at Stan's database of curse words, but another example makes things a little more clear. When Mabel and Dipper decide to investigate some of Stan's suspicious activities, they come across a surveillance video where Stan reveals the true vocabulary he uses when no one else is around. After dropping a large metal container on his foot, Stan realizes he's completely alone and begins to say "son of a" before Dipper quickly shuts off the tape. We all knew that if the video continued to play, we would hear the term for a female dog, probably with a whole string of other words to go along with it. The Mystery Shack is a great name for a tourist trap, but this wasn't the first type of branding Stan chose to use for the location. In the episode A Tale of Two Stans, we not only learn that Stan had a twin brother named Ford, but the Mystery Shack had a previous name as well, through some keen observations. A newspaper headline on the back wall reveals the name of the shack was once the Murder Hut. As we process all of the information from Stan's past, we have to wonder what kind of murders or gruesome crimes took place in the Murder Hut before it became a summer break den for Mabel and Dipper. Through both seasons of Gravity Falls, Grunkle Stan had many words of wisdom, and many words that should never be considered wisdom. One of those points came when he gave his thoughts on watching scary movies. He quickly drifted off on the whole point of the movie, going from cuddling to a significant other when they get scared, and then shifting drastically to all of a sudden having a kid. Yeah, Stan basically broke down exactly what Netflix and chill means, especially without birth control. The 12-year-olds that he's looking over for the summer are far too young for this type of advice, but adults watching knew exactly what he meant. The annual Woodstick Festival brings all types of hippies into Gravity Falls, and one of them is the singer and love potion guru known as the Love God. Well, it's pretty clear by his van and his hippie lifestyle that he partakes in a lot of extracurricular activities, and a couple of screenshots may actually prove it. When Mabel and Dipper go to steal the Love God's potions, they head into the back of his van. If you look closely, you can see an empty bottle with a pretty obvious shape to it. The container is obviously used for more recreational type of potions, one that many of the Woodstick Festival attendees would be very interested in. We've already discussed how Stan's advice may not be the best option, but Dipper got some grown-up advice firsthand thanks to Stan. When trying to teach the young lad about the birds and the bees, Dipper gets treated to a book that's probably really outdated. The title, Why Am I All Sweaty, has all of the answers to questions Dipper probably isn't ready to hear yet. The only problem? It was actually Mabel and Dipper's body. Awkward. So Stan pulls out this gem of a book and follows it up with some pretty adult-themed words of wisdom. And Mabel, still trapped in Dipper's body, says it best.
Goodbye, childhood.
Remember back when Stan wanted to flip the bird after getting his hands back? Well, turns out the adult content went even further just a few moments later. Once Stan finally does get his hands, he doesn't flip the bird, on screen anyway, but he does reveal his nicknames for them. One hand is named Shaky, and the other Scratchy, clearly indicating the actions he uses them for. We can only imagine what he scratches, and the whole shaky thing could mean a whole lot more than just shaking hands. Well, even if it is just for shaking hands, at least he scratches with the other one. That's respect. Now we have to wonder if he has nicknames for any of his other body parts. Poor old man McGucket always gets a bad rap in Gravity Falls, as teenagers and others take advantage of him time and time again. One of the more adult-oriented insults has to be from the episode Society of the Blind Eye. In the episode, a couple of teens decide to spray paint the outside of his junkyard home. What they end up writing is Micks Sukkot, which is a pretty degrading insult with a lot of innuendo attached to it. Anyone who grew up watching the antics of the WWE faction Degeneration X know exactly what we're talking about when using the phrase "suck it." How in the world did Gravity Falls get away with this? The questionable glass container that we saw in the Love God episode wasn't the only questionable thing adults could find in that episode. While the Love God chases Mabel and Dipper through the fair, they pass by Sprott, who drinks a bottle of something called Hippie Juice. After seeing the sight of the Love God flying by, Sprott has decided he's had plenty of the Hippie Juice and pours the rest out. The pouring out of the juice clearly indicates that Sprott thought he was drinking something with hallucinogenic properties to it, perhaps some mushrooms, some type of weird herbal mix, or just plain old drugs. No matter what it is, you can be sure Sprott won't be drinking it again. Dipper has had feelings for Wendy ever since the first time he laid eyes on her. After many close calls, he finally got a chance to express his feelings for her during the episode Into the Bunker. Before he expresses his feelings to Wendy, he gets physically closer to her than he would have ever imagined. As the two ride a secret elevator, their bodies get tossed around and Dipper gets pressed right into Wendy's chest. The moment happens in the blink of an eye, but was actually supposed to be much longer in the original cut. After the moment, watch for Dipper's eye line as he stares intently into the chest he was just pressed into. Yeah, we see you, Dipper. Maybe it's time for Stan to break out that book again. There's nothing more clever than the aha moment when a show recognizes its own patterns and does a little fourth wall breaking wink to the audience. On Gravity Falls, this moment came when Stan was discussing his love for the show Duct Detective. While the fictional show within a show is catered towards children, Stan specifically loves it because of the way it caters to adults and has a lot of hidden meanings and jokes, and yep, Stan was basically describing exactly what Gravity Falls does for us as adults who watch it. There's comedy, hidden moments, and funny gems that we can get from every single episode. The creators knew exactly what they were doing and created a hit in a similar way the Rugrats could entertain both children and adults with various types of humor and compelling stories. One of the best parts of watching reruns of Gravity Falls is having the ability to study all of the incredible background details and moments stuffed into the episodes. This includes so many parts of the Mystery Shack. In the living room alone, there's pictures, a dinosaur skeleton, a light-up waterfall picture that hangs above Stan's chair. If you look closely at the picture, it's actually a clone of a pretty popular piece of art for beer-drinking adults. There's a collector's piece known as the Light Up Hams Beer Motion Sign. The one hanging up in Stan's house is eerily similar, right down to a giant H to represent the Hams Company without directly advertising beer on a children's cartoon. Thankfully for the kiddos, only older adults would notice this detail and knew where it came from. Tossing in obscure horror references feels like the norm for Gravity Falls, with shoutouts to all kinds of classic movies, including Nightmare on Elm Street and Twin Peaks. A lot of these references would go right over a child's head, including a house that would look very similar to many older viewers. In the episode Headhunters, we learn the history of Grunkle Stan's wax figures through some flashbacks. It turns out the house where these figures were stored was modeled to be exactly after Norman Bates' house as seen in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Oddly enough, a house like Bates fits right in with the world of Gravity Falls, so many of us probably thought nothing of it. Any pro wrestling fans who grew up in the 90s cannot forget the dozens and dozens of Slim Jim ads featuring Macho Man Randy Savage. His scratchy voice often told us to snap into a Slim Jim. And apparently these ads had an impact on Gravity Falls creator Alex Hirsch as well. In the episode Dipper vs. Manliness, we see Dipper sitting alone in the woods when he pulls out a bag of beef jerky. The guy on the bag of beef jerky looks like a mix between Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. Dipper even uses the word brother when talking to said bag of jerky, the signature phrase Hogan has used for multiple decades in the WWE. When time traveling got introduced to Gravity Falls, things became a little more complicated. Dipper and Mabel first get their hands on a time traveling tape measure in the episode Time Traveler's Pig. After trying to redo their day at the carnival, a fight breaks out between the siblings and they end up back in time way further than expected. As they both stand up on a dirt road, Dipper asks, "Where are we?" And then Mabel tries to say the same exact thing. These quotes are a funny exchange on their own, but are taken directly from the sci-fi classic Back to the Future. When children question the line, it's a good time to break out the classic trilogy and get the youngins up to speed. Robbie is known for a teenage wardrobe that seems to come directly from the racks at Hot Topic, so it's no surprise when he reveals his Halloween costume for the Summerween episode. Keeping things pretty casual and simple, Robbie wears a skeleton hoodie for all the festivities. If the costume looks familiar, it's pretty much the same thing Donnie wears in the film Donnie Darko. The dark thriller probably isn't on the queue for many of the regular Gravity Falls viewers. The main difference in costume design is that Donnie wears a regular hoodie over a skeleton one piece. The design is clearly in the spirit of the trippy thriller, and we can imagine an angsty teen like Robbie being a huge fan of the movie. Mabel's relationship with Waddles was a great element of Gravity Falls and made us all wish we could go on adventures with them. When the duo were not on adventures together, they were busy hosting their own dance parties in the Mystery Shack. As a part of the big dance scene, Mabel and Waddles end up on the counter. The dance moves they do on the counter are taken directly from the dance scene in The Breakfast Club. The coming-of-age movie is like a must-watch for many young adults growing up, and the dance scene still remains iconic today. Seeing a pig mimic some of the moves from Molly Ringwald made Gravity Falls even cooler than it already was. In the Season 2 premiere of Gravity Falls, Dipper and the gang must deal with a horde of invading zombies. When nothing seems to kill them off, Dipper, Mabel, and Stan figure out that 3 people singing a high-pitched song will cause the zombie's head to literally explode. The visuals were certainly great, and the whole concept probably felt a little familiar to Tim Burton fans. In Burton's Mars Attacks, an old-time high-pitched song is what causes the alien heads to explode and splatter inside of their own space helmets. The song quickly spreads around the globe and the aliens are defeated thanks to the annoying tune. Even though Gravity Falls was host to the Woodstick Festival, us viewers didn't get to see many of the performances. However, we did get to see the list of bands, and the choices were all great references to other generations of music. One of the more obvious band references was to Boyz II Men, with the fictional band Boyz II Infants. Then there was Dracula Weekday, which is a clear riff on Vampire Weekend. One of the more clever references was for a band named No Raisin. Sure, it may be a spin on No Doubt, but the whole No Raisin joke is a classic meme and moment featured in Futurama as well. Seeing the homage in the form of band names provides a great laugh to the jam-packed episode. One of the downright creepiest episodes of Gravity Falls has to be the Northwest Mystery Mansion. We see humans turn to solid wood, burning skeletons crawl out of fire, and most creepily, a whole wall full of taxidermied animal heads begin dripping blood out of their mouths before coming alive before our very eyes. The animal heads were enough to give us nightmares in cartoon form, but for many old school horror fans, the scene may have brought back some painful memories. In Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, Bruce Campbell's character Ash watches in horror as a deer head comes alive on the wall. Not something you want to see when you're trapped inside of a cabin. Wow, Gravity Falls really knows how to cater to the adults, and we're pretty sure there's a ton of stuff that we missed. So now it's your turn to let us know some things only adults will notice. What's your favorite episode of the series? Do you want to see it return as a movie? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Screen Rant for more great content.